Now then lads, welcome back, and today I thought I would show off my first impressions of the new Guerrilla class, even if it is a fair bit late, to which I do apologise. But anyway, I thought it would be interesting to have a look at this new class, since it's pretty interesting and the Guerrillas have a lot of interesting things to talk about with them, let's just say. But anyway, before I get directly into the nitty-gritty, I thought we'd begin by me just showing you my first initial opinions of playing them for the first time. Okay, so here we go. My first time ever using the brand new Guerrillas. Also, I'm just looking down. That's a lot of ammo. That's what? 288 reserve ammo. Oh my god. Why do I have so much? Anyway, so, Guerrillas. The plan will be find the enemy and blow up tanks, I think is going to be our goal. That is a tank. Right, we can definitely get this. Oh. Wait, can I not detonate it? Okay, we'll just dump the rest on you. Let's get over here. Well, I'd say that went successful. I mean, he definitely didn't survive. So, with my first initial impressions out of the way, what is this class? Well, the new Guerrilla class that has been added is Darkflow's solution to the dreaded grey zone camping tank problem, and on the surface is a pretty fun and interesting way of combating the problem. The main abilities of the Guerrilla is that they have the ability to enter further into the enemy's spawn and get closer to the things that are grey zone camping. They have the ability to carry 5 TNT charges, which also means you get these as a default too when you buy the squad for the first time, which is also pretty nice. Their final feature, however, is probably the more interesting one in my opinion, which is their special ammo pouch, which replaces their backpack slot, but instead gives them an ammo pouch which gives the primary weapon the same amount of ammo as a large ammo pouch, and it also allows them to get full ammunition for any enemy weapon they pick up. Other than that, though, these guys are essentially just a smaller squad in their actual composition and what guns you can pick. So then, what do I actually think of this choice to fight back and counter the Grey Zone menace? Well, I actually think it's pretty effective, actually, with just a few little problems, and for me to explain those problems, I thought I'd go through this with each of their new main abilities of the Guerrilla, starting with the fairly obvious one, the extra TNT charges. So, to begin with, the extra dynamite is a pretty interesting addition for the class, but one I actually think is fairly balanced, since it does actually require some skill to get to the tank and then surviving to actually place it. I think it is a pretty balanced way of actually giving the player more choices to deal with Grey Zone campers, whilst also requiring them to be somewhat competent to be able to survive long enough to get to the tank, and also to have good game sense to know how to get there with as little issues as possible. So, the reward of being able to essentially one-shot a tank for the cost of good flanking and maneuvering, along with the ability of, actually surviving to get there if you have to encounter the enemy, over a much larger area than you usually would be fighting in, does feel like a fair trade for what you get out of it at the end, with, obviously, a guaranteed kill of a tank, essentially. And with the ability to carry 5 charges, and that you get them by default in the class as well, it means you can actually make good use of them straight out of the box. And I would also say that it's balanced out by the fact that the Guerrillas can't equip AT launchers or the like, which, does severely limit their AT capabilities to close range only. I think the TNT also has the ability to be used more creatively with the Guerrillas instead of just the standard way of, jumping on the tank, placing it on the tank, and then killing the tank, since the extra charges give players more choice on what to do, like set up ambushes or take out multiple tanks at once in the grey zone. So the main purpose of adding the Guerrilla class to combat grey zone campers is definitely supported by the fact that you can destroy so much more and actually kind of feel like a guerrilla or partisan actually using TNT. I think adding this adds a little bit of extra immersion as well to the class, which is always a plus in my opinion. So I think overall the 5 TNT charges and a class dedicated to using them as effectively as possible, it's a good idea that works really well if you ask me. The next ability is the one that kinda goes directly hand in hand with the TNT, and that's the extra play zone you get, which is pretty damn nice, even if it does have a few small problems. So, the main area that you get access to is essentially the enemy's backlines behind the objective, essentially where you'd expect all the campers to be. However, I do have a couple main gripes with this. Now, although I feel the range that you get on most maps is pretty much fine, I do feel that there could be a little bit of a balancing issue with this on certain maps. However, in my limited playtime with these guys, I haven't really seen any huge issues, but I do think there could be some. My second issue, and the one that I think is by far my biggest gripe, is that it still includes the enemy spawn area on the minimap and your map as an area you can go into, which really confused me. I didn't quite get why, as when you get close, it tells you approaching the enemy spawn area, and then when you enter the enemy spawn area, it tells you to leave the enemy spawn area with messages, and you also start to take damage. Yet on the map, it still says you can kind of walk into that, which I don't really get, and I feel that would be something that, you know, they could probably quite easily just fix to say, oh yeah, this is a grey zone. Now, the message I get, but I do feel that if it could have actually been changed so I could see the area and it was much more clear, I'd definitely be annoyed, as right now it feels kind of like a, you know, a plaster or a band-aid fix for what in my opinion will be a pretty simple change, mainly just for the UI. But overall, I feel the area the Guerrillas have access to is not that overpowered and feels like it will be one of those things that will either get a buff or a nerf depending on if someone, you know, finds a really broken part of a certain map and starts absolutely abusing it and it leads to way more spawn kills. But to be fair, I don't think it will cause any more of a problem than, say, a tank spawn killing you from the grey zone anyway. Finally is the last main feature, the ammo pouch, which is my personal favourite, because I just think it feels really damn good, and is really fun, and makes them really feel that bit much more unique. Like I said earlier, this pouch replaces your backpack slot like the radio for a radioman, but instead you get a large ammo pouch for your primary weapon, which essentially doubles your standard reserve ammo, but you also get to have full ammo on any enemy weapon you pick up, which is really good, especially at later tiers, and is kind of like a godsend in a tier up. Like, when I was using these, which was mainly in tier 2, the ability to just, you know, go ahead and pick up like a tier 3 weapon was, you know, pretty useful often. Anyway, this essentially does make the Guerrillas assaulters, with a kind of close to bottomless ammo pool, with their only main drawback being you don't have an engineer, so you obviously can't build ammo boxes, but you don't really need to build ammo boxes. Now, that to me does sound like a fair payoff. Oh yeah, and they can also use rifle class weapons too, so there's another plus. This is what I would argue is the main feature of the Guerrillas, and the one that I think most people would care about, as having assaulters who have crap tons of ammo, the ability to steal any enemy weapon which gives them their full ammo for that weapon, basically means that these guys are kind of perfectly geared for assault kill streaks, which, you know, won't become annoying, and to be fair, they haven't seen that annoying to me so far. But maybe you've had different experiences. So I think that these guys are essentially going to just become assaulters, but without the modularity of the assault squad, or the customizability in favour of more ammo, which, considering the way most people use assaulters right now, I'm not surprised that people would move on to using these guys. And thankfully, if people do go on to using them a lot, there's only at least one squad they can use that's free, and then there's obviously also the 2 premiums in the event. So there's like, what, 2 squads for the 2 armies? No, 3. Poor Japan still doesn't have one. But the point is, this is what I feel is the main feature that's going to get people to stay with Guerrillas, which, you know, fair enough. So, overall then, what is my main opinion on the Guerrillas? Well, I think they're a pretty novel solution to the issue of grey zone campers, and are a much more intuitive solution to the problem, rather than just adding in things like new styles of artillery strikes, for example. Guerrillas feel much more fair to fight, both as a tanker and a soldier, and I think that Guerrillas are more fun to pull off well as a soldier, because it's just more rewarding to be able to do it that way, than, say, in a plane with rockets. I think all the features they have got, like the TNT, the extra playable range, and the extra ammo, all feel really good and kind of play into that, like, partisan role that these guys have. Like, as saboteurs and spies, it feels really cool. I think the only problem that could come up would be the changes to their playable area in certain maps, and for them to have to, you know, change the grey zone areas and stuff, and hopefully actually grey zone out the enemy spawn, instead of that bloody message. I also do really like that all factions got them for free in the tree, along with premium and an event variant of them, which, fingers crossed, will happen with all new classes from here on out. Please, Darkflow. Please. Anyway, my overall impression of the Guerrillas is fairly positive, and I think they are a pretty damn good addition to Enlisted. And, well, with that said, thank you so much for watching, and, goodbye.